Feel My Dilemma. I knew that song was going to be a monstrous hit in this room. What an opportunity to talk about happiness, right? I'm not talking about that. Today is the Sunday before Valentine's Day. What an opportunity to talk about love. I'm not talking about love. But fortunately, Christy is. Reverend Christy is going to talk about that next Sunday. Here's what I'm here to do today, to ask for your help. Many of you know, Barbara and I are leaving this afternoon right after the celebration and headed toward Florida. We're going down there for meetings and then for our annual Spiritual Living Convention. And others are going with us. We have a full reign of delegates and presenters from this center. We're going to be very well represented. On Monday afternoon, it's my job as president of our organization to present the state of the organization. Yeah. So I need to practice. So we're going to, what I'm asking for you to do is to listen to my talk. Listen to my 20-minute address that I'll give to the delegates in Orlando. And then tell me you like it later, okay? My intention is to inform you about what's going on in our movement, in our organization, and by doing that to inspire you, and I hope that's true. They're only giving me 20 minutes to do this, and I've got 6 pages of notes. So we probably should get started, right? So this is a quick background on where we started. Several years ago, somebody finally took a little action toward bringing 2 organizations that had split in 1953 back together to create one organization that is teaching science of mind throughout the world. Now that doesn't mean that everybody that teaches science of mind is part of this organization, but we did manage to find a way to get back together. We got our organizational stuff out of the way and said principles more important, and we were teaching exactly the same thing. But we took years to do it. We took years to design a new organization. We took it to a San Diego convention, and we said, can you approve this in both bodies? Can you say that where we're going is the right direction for us to go? 98% of the people said yes. So with that, the next year, we spent the entire year creating policies and procedures and selecting people or finding people that were willing to run for the elected offices in the organization. I was one of those crazy people and ran for president and was elected from a field of very competent and capable people. And I'm very honored for the last 2 years to have been serving as the president of our international organization. So since then, what we've done is we've brought everything together. Cultures we're still working on, but the structure is one now, and it's working. So here's some of the data that I want to share with you. In those 2 years, we've added 16 new centers. Take a look at where they are. They're all over the country. They are all, yes, in the United States, but this is where the concept of center works best. So you can see some of the places and some of the pioneers on the right-hand side of people that have chosen to run or to start new centers. All right, the next slide shows you the teaching chapters. We have 6 of those, and this, although again is mostly in the United States, we do have an interesting group right here in Lima, Peru, that are creating actually a series of teaching centers, teaching chapters down there. The next group is our focus ministries. A focus ministry is a non-local ministry. It's a ministry that serves people, but not in a brick and mortar building, not necessarily at all on Sunday morning. And as you can see from these names along here, you can see some of the ideas that people have come up with in ways to be in ministry. It's pretty creative.
Shanghai. Yes.
Yes, we have a center in Shanghai. The reason they're a focus ministry is because their administrative office is in Denver. Because trying to get money and things into Shanghai is a little tricky. So that's why they're set up that way. But these are some of the ideas now, which means that as an organization, this is where we stand today. We have 291 centers. We have 52 teaching chapters and 34 focus ministries, meaning our member communities total 377. Yay. So now some people, including me, might look at those numbers and say you're not growing fast enough. You got the whole world out there, you got to grow faster. Actually, in this case, I believe that gradual, ongoing growth is a better way to do this. rather than growing too quickly and then collapsing. So this is what we want to do, is maintain that. We're going to pick it up as we're ready, but this is where we are today, and I think all in all, we're doing pretty well with that. This idea of integration has several elements to it. We've certainly brought our structure together, but now what we're looking at is, where do we go from here? What do we take on next? How is this supposed to look? So this is the group that's looking at it. This is your leadership council of Centers for Spiritual Living. You might notice the handsome fellow on the center right. We meet every month and face-to-face 3 to 4 times a year to look at how we are going to move forward with that. Let me show you some of the other people that are in. Oh goodness, we don't have a minister council picture, but Barbara has promised me one while we're in Orlando, so this page will get filled with pictures of the minister council. The next one, this is our practitioner council. These are the 6 practitioners that work as advocates for the practitioners in our movement, which are coming close to about 3,500 active licensed practitioners around the world. And this is our laity council with, well, the big guy on the left there is not a member of that council, but he's our spiritual leader, Ken Gordon, but the rest of them very happily at picture taken at Asilomar shows those that are working on our lay leadership issues and finding ways to support our movement. And these are amazing, wonderful people doing great work. Now what I want to do is talk about the whole idea of us being a volunteer organization. We are absolutely functioning as a volunteer organization. We have, let's see, find my numbers. We have 70 councils, committees, teams, and groups with 480 positions of service. So people from all over our organization worldwide serve on these different, either elected or volunteer groups. Well, they're all volunteer groups, but they serve in amazing ways. And actually, most of the business of our organization happens at that level. This is an example. This is our global services team. This group of individuals actually oversee what happens with our international works, what happens with our centers and teaching chapters and study groups. And what they tell me is that we have 5 centers outside of the United States and Canada right now. We have 14 teaching chapters in 10 countries. And we have 43 study groups in 19 countries. We are finding our way into the world. We have new centers, as you saw, in Ecuador, teaching chapters in Ecuador. We have our community in China. We have new communities popping up in Africa and all through Europe and all through South America and even in the Caribbean. So there are wonderful things happening with us. And this is an example of some of the volunteers that work on that. What was it that these good people wanted me to tell you? They wanted me to say that November 2nd of this year will be Global Sunday, and we're going to be asking all of our centers around the country to focus on our global work on that Sunday in November. The Leadership Council a year ago came up with a set of priorities. We've been spending the year looking at these and working on these and starting to develop plans to address these. These are our strategic priorities. And they are in alphabetical order, not by any other order of priority. They are all important, and they all bring incredible opportunities for us to grow and to expand and to serve our field organization, our member communities, and we are working with these groups, and we are working with them in this way. The Leadership Council set this agenda. We turned that over to the Growth and Development Commission, which I chair. And the Growth and Development Commission are 12 selected individuals that are very passionate about the growth of our organization. We gathered as a group in Seattle, Washington last year and talked about how to approach these. And we spent 2 very intense days. We were exhausted by the end of the 2nd day looking at ideas on doing this, but we just barely scratched the surface. So what we've done now is we've turned over what we've done to 9 different development teams. We've got almost 100 people working on sections of this, 100 total, but in smaller groups working on how do we develop these things. And it's been a fascinating process, learning how we would move through some of these. And you might think, well, that's pretty dry licensing, right? Well, I happen to be on the licensing team, and so does Barbara. And what we're finding is that there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to consider. We have brought together 2 cultures that license ministers and practitioners differently. And we kind of threw it together as quick and as safely as we could. But what we never really did fully was talk to all of our practitioners and ministers about how they'd like that to be organized, how they would like that to work. So one of the initiatives we'll do is we'll create ways for all of our 3,500, getting close to 4,000 practitioners and our 900 ministers to actually have a say in how this works and to start developing a plan around that. So there's lots of areas here where we're going to get better at what we do, and we're going to do it through these strategies and the way that we approach these with the strategic plan over the next couple of years. And the strategic plan it has 3 parts. It's a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 20-year plan. So we're actually looking at 20 years to see where do we want to be. And we're seeing some very interesting things. You know, we're talking about going from our 377 current members to 1,000. You know, and to really start having that impact on the world. And how do we get there? What do we do? Well, it's going to take a lot of changes. It's going to take doing things very differently than we've done in the past. And this is the beginning of that process. This is the long-term, long-range work that we're doing. The short-range work that we're doing is 5 specific projects that the Leadership Council said, okay, what are we going to do while all this other work is going on? And these were the things that we took on. We believe that our centers would be well served by us having an abundance manifestation program. In other words, a plan for being prosperous in our centers. And Dr. Patrick Cameron, one of our members of the Leadership Council, is chairing that and working on that. And the Leadership Council is actually going to have a whole day in Orlando where that's all we talk about and all we work on. So that's developing very nicely. Improved communications to the field is actually the work of Dr. Judy Morley. And Dr. Judy is head of our communications, and the 2 main things that I want to talk about with this, and this has been a priority for me as president all along, is to have excellent communication with everybody that wants it out in the field. One way that we've done it, we started with a president's monthly report that went out to the field, but that's grown. That's grown beyond that in that we now have an entire monthly update, not only from the president, that's not only that yet. Thank you. You get ahead of me here. You didn't know. We're just testing this out here. So the idea of the monthly update is that an email goes out to all of our practitioners, lay leaders, and ministers, and they get to see what's going on with our organization. They get to receive that information from the spiritual leader, the president, the chairs of the different councils, and then from the different departments of our organization. So it's a very comprehensive report. It goes out every month, and all we got to do is figure out how to get everybody to read it. And I've got my ideas around that. We're going to be working on that. The other part of this improved communication in the field is on the next slide. This is an example of a president's teleconference. Every Wednesday midday, I get on the telephone on a conference call line and invite everybody in our organization that wants to come on and talk about one of the themes. This particular picture, we very seldom are in the same room when we do this. I interview people all over our organization. This particular one, though, was just a couple of weeks ago in Denver. That's in the conference room, and who you're seeing are the 2 people on the right, Dr. Judy and Reverend Gregory, and the gentleman on the left are authors of books that were published by what's called Park Point Press. That's a part of Science of Mind Publishing. It's a shared publishing process where the author participates in the publishing process. But this is just one example of the kinds of calls that we have. I have other examples. Last week we talked about chaplaincy. We had quite a wonderful number of people that wanted to hear about that. We've talked about ministerial education changes, starting a Science of Mind school. My guests were Nancy Miller and Emily Lowen. Thank you very much. And they were great guests, and people got all excited about starting schools around our community of centers. We had a call recently about global services, and we've talked about World Ministry of Prayer on this call. And we've done 84 calls, and my estimate is that we've had over 6,000 people come on those calls. And that's what's beginning to look like an informed community when we come together around this. So that's another idea of how we are sharing information around our system. Regional events is the next one, and we believe that there's a place for regional events in our organization because we no longer are going to a Silomar. Silmar we did for, I don't know, 60, 65 years, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something else. So in place of that, the idea that we're working on is to create regional events. The first one is planned for this fall in, of all places, Atlanta. More information to come, so if any of you would like to be a part of that, all you have to do is drive down and be part of it in Atlanta. That's our intention. So, and hopefully we'll be doing those all around the country every year, and mostly in the summer. The next one is our Spiritual Living Resource app, which Reverend David Alexander has been, this was his brainchild, and this is just an idea of what the screen looks like. You can actually go to a spiritual resource, or you can go to this app on your cell phone, on your Android or Apple cell phone, and you can actually find out what is going on near where you physically are at that moment. So it's a wonderful app. It's really going to allow more and more people to know what's going on within our organization and beyond our organization, because this is a body, mind, spirit app, so that you can find information and resources and all kinds of things. And then the last one on the list is Spiritual Living Circles, and this is my baby, and I don't know how many of you know about this, but this was an idea that came to me, that we have an incredible resource called the Science of Mind magazine. It goes out to 70,000 people every month. I know, that's a lot of people. A lot of these people live somewhere where they're nowhere near a center like this. They don't even maybe even know that centers exist. But they have this yearning to know more. So what we've created are opportunities for people to come together like this in their homes and take the magazine, and we're sending out study guides on, or excuse me, discussion guides on a particular article in the magazine every week. And that discussion guide comes with questions and ideas on, if you read the article, what the conversation could be around that. And people are gathering in their homes around that. We just started this past year, and we already have 60 circles that are being led every week. I'm really excited about that. And we just now got into Science of Mind magazine with an ad. The ad looks like that on the right. It's an invitation to start a circle. And that invitation, as I said, goes out to 70,000 people every month. Pretty cool, huh? So my guess is this is going to be something that's really going to create a new way for people to know the teachings of Science of Mind in a much greater way. Okay, this is missing a picture because it has not been sent to me yet, but the good thing is I'm not giving this talk for a week, so I got time to get it. What I want to talk about here, though, is our member support and education area. We have a director of member support and education. His name is Gregory Toole, and he leads these two areas, which has to do with credentialing, licensing, and our education. And some very fascinating things are happening in this area that are changing very quickly. This year, or excuse me, last year we said goodbye to Lynn Conley, who was our manager of education. And we said welcomed Bob Dean, Reverend Bob Dean from Philadelphia, who has now moved to Denver. And he's not our manager of education, he is our manager of professional education. And he is going to be working with the curriculum and the education of practitioners and ministers. That is his area. This year, we're going to hire a manager of spiritual development. And that is who is going to create a new curriculum. This is how it works. The Leadership Council made education one of our highest priorities and called it our core competency. As soon as we did that, we heard that someone had left a bequest to our education, to our ministerial education, but our education in all, of $2 million. Yay. We've received that money, and it's gone into the Science of Mind Foundation, into the corpus of our foundation, so that every year money will come out that we can use. But what we also did was we took 10% of that money and we made it available so that we can rewrite all of the curriculum in our entire educational program from start to finish with a couple $100,000 in the next couple of years. So we're very excited about where that's going and the possibilities with that. Education is a greatly important priority in our movement, and that's where we're putting our money as well as our time and energy. Let's see what else I want to say about that. Oh yeah. I want to talk about the next, let's talk about the next one. There will be a picture here as well of our wonderful communications. Communications is made up of events and publishing. I've talked a little bit about both of those, but there's one interesting thing that's about to happen. A couple of things. First of all, Science of Creative Thought magazine, which I think is on the next slide, there it is just now celebrating 60 years being published, and it, for the first time in I think in April or May, will be colored, full color, rather than just black and white on the inside. This is the magazine that I write an article for every month. And it's continuing to grow and prosper. We've actually had to raise the price to make sure that we're not losing money publishing it, but it's still working very well for us. The other thing that's interesting that's going on is Barnes & Noble is collaborating with Science of Mind magazine. And in April of this year, we are going to be on the end cap of the magazine section of 600 Barnes & Nobles. It'll have a title of Spiritual Periodicals, or something of that sort, and the one that will be right at the top of the display will be Science of Mind magazine. So we're very excited about that. What's next on there? This is our operations team. And operations is what most of you would find pretty dull about what we do. It's the finance department and the development department and insurance. And apparently a dog. Yes, we have a very loose policy on four-legged in the office, and that one's there every time I go. So these wonderful people, though, and human resources is part of that as well. What these people do is pretty structural, but they wanted you to see something. So on this next screen, this is a snapshot of the Centers for Spiritual Living website. It's not the outside one for everybody that goes there to see, but if you log in and put the password, which everybody that is a minister, a practitioner, or a lay leader can know how to do that, can go to this site. And what you get that's different are all of these things. And there's some amazing information that's actually held on these different pages. And just to give you a sense of it, there are sample articles of incorporation and bylaws for any community that wants to revisit or visit for the first time how to organize and structure those documents. All the organizational documents of our organization, there are bylaws, our organization design model, our affiliation agreement template, and all of the policies and procedures. It's all on there. Anyone can read it anytime they want. The financials, the current monthly financials of our organization are available on that site for anyone to look at. We are being very transparent. There's election information, marketing resources, information on our tax exempt status, insurance information, education catalog and course curricula, open pulpit listings, study groups, and a ton more of information on there. And that operations group has a lot to do with getting all that information on the website. It's very highly functional and highly valuable if you're looking for information. So we want everybody to know that that information is there and that all you have to do is click on and know your code and you're in and you can get all that information. World Ministry of Prayer is the only area of the people that work in Golden that isn't part of one of those three directors' areas. This was actually my idea to change this. What I realized was that our World Ministry of Prayer and the work of our spiritual leader was so closely aligned that they really should have a relationship. So Eugene Holden, thank you. Eugene Holden, that's what the picture that will be your picture of Eugene with Dr. Ken, and that relationship is already flourishing. In fact, it's already doubled the number of hits on the website because of that relationship. So we have more and more people that are going to the website for prayer, contacting practitioners, and receiving the blessings of that prayer work online or on the telephone. So that's what's happening there. These are the kind of things that are happening in our organization. These are the things that are changing. There's many, many, many new things that are about to happen with our organization. I'm running for president. I was the first elected president of this organization, and I'm asking everyone that's there to vote for me again and elect me for 4 more years. The reason it's 4 years, that's the normal term. The 2-year term was just to get us going so that the president and the spiritual leader were not elected at the same time. So that is my request of these good people. Of course, First and foremost, it's that we're making the progress that we want to make, and that we're all supporting this. Over the years, it hasn't always been that way. We are a movement of independent thinkers. And there have been times where there have been disagreements, differences of opinion, and lots of things that made it look like we weren't working together very well. And I've really worked hard the last 2 years to bridge some of that and to make sure that people felt informed and supported. I continue to do my treatment work. Those of you that are members, you know that you get a card from me occasionally, either from me or from Barbara or Christy. I also do the same kind of work for our ministers who are leading our member communities, and I have a list of them that I work with every week as well. So we've had that opportunity to continue to support the communities around the world that are supporting our organization. And I believe that it's really beginning to show some signs of oneness so that we can continue this work for many, many, many years to come. This is where we are right now, and what I wanted you to know is what I'm going to say to those folks down in Florida here in just a few days. And I want them to know how supported I feel by you and how this allows me to do the work in the world, to still be a part of who we are here and what we do here, and to step out into the world and keep this big vision alive and moving. So thank you for the way you support me. Thank you for the way you love me. I want you to know that I love you too. And you give me the ability and the energy to go out into the world and do this. And I love you very much. Thank you.